Hi there, it's Donna from Taffy Crafting. It is Sunday and therefore it's another challenge from Vicky Lou Designs and Crafty Karen Designs. I can't remember whose idea this one was. Karen, I think. Karen said that we should do a 6 by 6 inch one sheet wonder. And I've got one piece of DSP. This is from the Best Dressed paper stack. And out of that one sheet, that's only 6 by 6, and a bit of lovely lipstick cardstock, I've made 6 cards. I'm going to show you in a second how I cut that up. But just some very simple cards. Now we are, at the time of this is being videoed and published, we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and I've not been laid off work, but we have been advised to work from home, which is relatively easy for me. But the thought of working from home for potentially the next, who knows when, 2 months, 3 months, I don't know, means that I could end up with a bit of time on my hands, and it's a little bit depressing at the moment, really not knowing what we can do. People are panic buying, and I'm just trying to do things to keep me busy. And this is an ideal way of doing it. And I'm probably over the next few months going to really get through my craft supply. So what I've done, I'm going to show you how we cut it up in a moment, but we end up with squares. I'm using 2 different stamp sets, and I'll show you those. But oh yeah, the point I was trying to make is that I want to do some crafting, and I want to send some cards out to my fellow colleagues. We're all college lecturers, and we are all sat at home, unable to do very much other than work from home. And some of my friends are having to look after their children from home rather than them going to school, and that just brings its own kind of stress and busyness. So I'm making some cards to send to my friends and my colleagues because I can't see them now. I've missed out on a family do this weekend. I've missed out on our craft retreat next weekend. They've all had to be cancelled. So what I want to do is actually make some cards and send them on to people to say that I'm thinking of them even though I can't see them. So that's the point of this. So I'm going to show you now how out of one sheet of DSP, along with some white cardstock to make the cards and some coordinating cardstock to break up and stop this looking so flat, to come up with 6 cards. So the first part, so video number 1, is going to be how we actually cut this up with all of the measurements on there, which will also be on my blog, and I'm going to do this nice and slowly. And then there'll be a second part to the video showing how I actually put the cards together. All on one video, it's going to be too long. So this is part 1 of a 2-part series with the 6 by 6 one sheet wonder. So this has come from the Best Dressed DSP, from the Best Dressed suite. These are 6 by 6 anyway, but if you were using 12 by 12, you would want to cut that into 4. My recommendation for if you're doing a one sheet wonder and you're going to cut up either a 12 by 12 sheet of DSP or a 6 by 6 is to use a pattern that is relatively small and with lots of colour. You could go for something a little bit, perhaps less colourful. I mean, that's completely down to you. And I'm now suddenly thinking, oh my goodness, I would go with monochrome and put a big pop of colour behind it. So that thought's in my head now. So I'm writing that down, and I'm going to do something like that. And look out on my blog, I'll have some bits and pieces coming up. So there's that, and we need your paper trimmer, and we're going to put that in there. Now I'm going to do this nice and slowly because I know that people like to write measurements down while we're going along, so hit that pause button if you ever need to stop. I will just say, if this is the first time you've come across me, you're probably thinking, my god, she goes on. But if this is the first time you've come across me and you think you might like some future videos, simple paper crafting and stamping, that is all I do. I don't do very much that's complicated. Then come and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future video tutorials. Anyway, I'll shut up, let's get on. So 6 by 6, the first thing that I'm going to do is cut at 3 inches, and that's going to slice this piece of DSP in half like that, and we put one of these to one side. and we're going to deal with this piece. I'm going to turn it round and we're going to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to cut that at 2 inches. So line it up carefully, cut at 2 inches. So cut that at 2 inches, and then this one we are going to turn that around. Can't remember what I'm going to do. No, we're not. We're going to leave that there like that. Sorry. So that's one piece that we're going to use. And then I've got that piece left, and then I'm going to cut that at 3 inches. And then that's another piece that we're going to use. This, what's left, measures 1 inches by 3 inches. I'm going to turn that round in there, and I'm going to cut that at 1 inch. And I'm going to cut this remaining piece at 1 inch. So out of that 1/2 of that DSP, if I can pick these up, I have got 3 pieces that are 1 inch square, 1 piece that is 3 inches square, and another piece that's 2 inches by 3 inches. Get the other half, and we're going to put that in the paper trimmer again like that. These are slightly more complicated, these ones. I'm going to trim this at 2 1/4, so on the long side at 2 1/4. With that piece, I'm going to turn it round, and I'm going to cut that in half because that is 3 inches. I'm going to cut that in half at 1 1/2. So that's for another card. Then with this one, I'm going to trim this to 1 inch. And from that piece, I'm going to turn it, and because that also measures 3 inches, I'm going to trim that to 1 1/2. Like that. So those 2 pieces for another card. And then, so this piece I then got to trim again at 1 inch. Turn that around and then trim that again at 1 1/2. So actually what I have, and I'd forgotten when I started that, I've then got 4 pieces there at 1 inch by 1 1/2 inches, and then I'm left with that piece. So let's put that away for a moment. So this is what we've got out of that piece that we've just done. We've got that measures 1 3/4 by 3 inches. We have these 4 that measure 1 inch by 1 1/2 inches. We have these 2 that measure 2 1/4 by 1 1/2. I've got these 3 that measure 1 inch square. I've got this one that measures 3 inches square, and then this one that measures 2 inches by 3 inches. So what I've then done with those is then cut some lovely lipstick. What I've done is I've taken the colour that's in here is lovely lipstick, but we've also got we've got a green colour here. Can't tell you off the top of my head what green that is, and we've got some yellow in there as well. So you choose what colour you would like. Now because the pink is the most predominant colour in there, I've gone with that. So then what I'm going to do is make some background pieces. So I've got some, I'm using lovely lipstick. You can use whatever you like, and it does depend what DSP that you've used. Also depends what you've got kicking around. This is also, if you didn't have any 6x6, just use some scrap. This is perfect for scrap. So these, start with the easy one. These are 1 inch squares. And then I've created 3 1 1/8 inch squares. And then all I'm going to do is then just stick each of those 1 inch squares onto the 1 1/8 inch square. Like that. There we've got the 3-inch square here, and then I've got a square of lovely lipstick that's 3 1/8 square. And I'm going to put that on there like that. I've then got the, what have I got here? I've forgotten, 2 inches by 3 inches. So I've got a piece of cardstock that measures 2 1/8 by 3 1/8. I've got this that measures 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 by 3. Just check that, yeah. So that then measures 3 1/8 by 1 7/8. I've got these 4 here that measure 1 inch by 1 1/2 inches. And then I've got 4 rectangles, can't pick them up, that is 1 3/8 by 1 5/8. No, 1 1/4 by 1 5/8. So I've got 4 of those. Any issues about the measurements, go to the blog. Any further issues, send me an email, taffycrafting@gmail.com. More than happy to help you with those. And then I've got these two. These two measure 2 1/4 by 1 1/2. So these measure 2 3/8 by 1 5/8. So what I'm going to do now is stick all of those on like that, and then in part 2 of the video I'm going to then show you how I'm going to put the cards together with some other bits and pieces using some stamp sets and some lovely lipstick ink. I'll be back in the next video. Thanks, bye bye.